last meeting. Have a second? Thank you. Any further comments? Sorry. All in favor, say aye. Okay. All opposed, say nay. Hearing none, the minutes are now approved. All right. Andy,
Yeah.
the show is yours from here.
All right. Well, our first item that we typically cover are the financial statements for the previous month. But as you know, our committee meetings have been moved up because of the holiday. So the month of November has not yet closed. So we will have the financial results for November at the board meeting next week available for review. The next action item is just an annual update of our excess workers' compensation, and Julie Beard will present that item.
Good morning. So our action item is for the renewal of an existing policy for the workers' comp claims that exceed our current self-retention limit. There was a slight increase this year of $5,688 from 2023, and this is based, the premium is based on our payroll, so due to the increase in the payroll, the premium for the year of 2024 went up about the $5,600. Any questions?
Yeah, so we would need a motion to approve excess workers' comp for 2024 in the amount of, here we are, $119,000, 448.
So I move to approve the 119,448 budgeted item for the excess work comp policy.
Been approved and seconded. Any questions or comments? No? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Okay, hearing none, move to.
I do have a question. So anytime there's an increase in worker compensation, we have to vote on it?
We have an annual policy. So essentially, we're self-insured for workers' comp claims that are levied against the organization or that need to be paid by the organization. But we have an insurance policy for excess work comp. So if we have a really large claim or a high number of claims, we buy an insurance policy to cover that unexpected exposure, right? And the amount is tied to the amount of total payroll we have, right? So the more employees we have, the more bus operators we have, the more payroll we have, the more exposure we have for work comp claims, which is why our premiums went up by about 5% from last year to this year.
So does that go in the reverse as well, or is there, so to speak, a gap that continues because each annual or each year premiums just rise in and of themselves?
I think it's a number of factors. There's the market. There's also our experience, right, in work comp. If we are an agency that is experiencing a lot of work comp claims, or we're using the insurance policy a lot because we're exceeding our limit, then our premiums are going to go up, just like car insurance or anything else. If we have a lot of experience and exposure, we can expect premiums to go up. And then also the size of our workforce and the size of our payroll.
During 2023, our rate was 18 cents per $100 for our payroll, and the rate remained the same. It was just due to the increase in the payroll.
That's good then.
There we go.
Thank you.
Okay. Next up is budget. We have the budget. They voted. Yep.
Brady's not working today.
Great. All right. On the first slide here, second slide, we'll show the agenda. As we typically do, we're going to go over our budget priorities for 2024. And then, as you know, our budget comes in two pieces. The biggest is our operating budget, which pays for all of the work that we do on a daily basis in terms of service on the street. And the second is our capital budget. On the next slide, we'll walk through our budget priorities. As we've been doing since issue 7 passed, we're continuing to grow and improve the transit network. So in this budget, there are continued increases in bus service on the street, improvements to the fixed route network, additional Metro Now zones with the goal of increasing ridership and continuing to increase ridership. You'll see that reflected in the revenue side of the budget. And also, as you all know, improving service quality is a main priority in 2024. We've been growing pretty quickly as an organization since the passage of issue 7. In that growth, we're starting to look out over the next, 25 years to make sure that we're every year putting together a budget that can meet our financial goals in the long term and be sustainable. So some of that is reflected in here, and we can talk through that. We also need to continue our commitment towards infrastructure revitalization, right? So we have a lot of deferred maintenance and a lot of infrastructure in the system that hasn't been taken care of over the last 25 years, and we continue through our capital process to make improvements there. And then also progression of BRT. As you all know, you committed to 3 years and $37 million of BRT planning and development, and the first of those 3 years is reflected in this 2024 budget. On the expense side, next slide, if we summarize the operating budget in general, the 2024 operating budget that we're presenting today is 4.8% greater than the 2023 operating budget that you all approved 12 months ago. The operating budget is 9.5% greater than the 2023 expense forecast, which means, as you all know, we're finishing this year 2023 under budget for a couple of reasons. One being, over the course of 2023, we weren't able to get new service out on the street as quickly as we had hoped to, given the challenges that we've had in hiring operators, right? With the labor market, we were slower to add service in 23 than planned, so we came in under budget in 23. When we look at 24, we have gotten the service in 23 on the street, and we're planning to add more in 2024. So those are the differences between those two numbers. Again, we're looking at continuing to grow the service, but doing so in a mindful way about our long-term commitments. And the number one long-term commitment we have in the operating budget is BRT, right? We know that these 2 BRT corridors are coming in 2027, 28. Timing is still to be determined, but in that range. And we have to make sure that we balance this budget in a way that prepares for those future operational costs. Next slide. Next slide is our operating revenue assumptions. On the revenue side, we assume that the Reinventing Metro Phase 3 and 4 will hit the street, which means more passenger revenue. Metro Now, we're budgeting for a full year of Metro Now in the current 2 zones. As we've mentioned in this meeting before, we don't see the additional zones coming on until the end of 24 because of vehicle pipeline issues. We also see continued ridership growth kind of per trend with both Access and CPS. We've talked to this group about fare capping. Fare capping will be introduced in the middle of 24. That's where it's a process that ensures folks don't pay more than they absolutely necessarily need to for their bus passes, right? It's kind of a pay-as-you-go program. That, as we've seen throughout the country, results in 2 things: often increased usage and increased ridership, and sometimes a slight decrease in revenue per passenger because folks are able to ride more after they've reached their monthly maximum of a monthly pass. So that is all considered in this revenue projection for the 24 budget. As you all know, we renegotiated our contract with CPS, so that is budgeted at the new contract rate, which is an increase in revenue for the organization. Investment income. So you'll see this throughout the presentation. As we've talked about in every finance committee meeting, we've been able to grow our capital reserve. That reserve is generating investment income for the organization, so much so now that it is part of our revenue strategy every year moving forward. So we're budgeting about $7.5 million of investment income in 2024, which plays a significant role in our budget analysis. Sales tax projection, as we've said all along and continues this year, is reflective of the UC Economic Center study, and that number is used in the revenue projections for '24. You'll see a timing issue when it relates to what we call our federal support. 5307 it's a technical term for federal funds from the Federal Transit Administration. We typically get around $15 million a year in formula funds. If you recall, a couple months ago, we received about $5 million of funds in 2023, kind of ahead of time. It was a trade with our urbanized area partners, which means that we won't see that revenue in '24. We just essentially received it early. So you'll see a decrease in the federal subsidy line by about $5 million because that $5 million was already received in '23, and we will go back to plan in '25 based on the formula, which will be about $15 million a year. So we'll see that when we get to the revenue slide. On the expense side, our key assumptions here, as we mentioned, we have increased bus service as part of the plan. So wages and fringes, you'll see an increase in that expense line item. That's compounded by a medical rate increase of 10%. You all approved our health insurance program a couple months ago, and we're seeing 10% in fringes with respect to medical expenses. We talked about increasing service with correlated with service levels. And then also what we've seen as we've been able to add headcount in the operator space, we've seen a decrease in overtime. As overtime is less plentiful, we've seen folks choose not to select as much overtime, and therefore we've partnered the trend in this budget with what we're seeing in the late 2023 with an increased headcount in operators. Fuel expense up slightly, largely based on the amount of service that's added in the system. Parts and supplies, you remember that we've kind of been behind budget, or we have been, what's the word I'm looking for? The parts and supplies have been more expensive than budgeted over the last 2 years. We've taken a hard look at that and gotten our expectations in line with the market now. So we hope to not be over budget in parts and supplies in 2024. And then one of the last things we'll talk about today in this meeting and also in the planning and marketing meeting is we're making a concerted effort to improve the space that is the bus stop. This is a strategic play on behalf of the whole organization with respect to signs and shelters and cleanliness, and those expenses that you've been looking at and approving over the last couple months and will be looking at over the next couple months are incorporated in this 2024 budget. Next slide. Here we go. So when we look at the overall P&L, we're showing a ridership increase of about 7.5%, much of that driven by the new service, some driven by trend. We're seeing fare revenue increase correspondingly at about 7%. We talked about fare capping might cause a slight reduction in average revenue per ride in the second half of the calendar year. Other revenue is down to the removal of Route 42. If you remember, Butler County has taken operation of the 42 back, which means both the expenses associated with that route and the revenue associated with that route are not in the '24 budget. County sales tax, $6.7 million increase per the UC Economic Center. And you can see on the sheet here, that's about a 5.7% increase. Federal funds, so when we're looking at that line, federal subsidies, you can see we're forecasting $14.4 million in '23 and then $10.9 million in '24, and that is the issue of receiving $5 million early in '23. And then the other investment income is another important thing to discuss here. So in non-transportation revenue, you see $8.5 million in 2024. That's a combination of $7.5 million of investment income and also other sources like advertising and things that we do on the buses. When you net all of this out, we're projecting a $2.3 million surplus in the operating budget for 2024. I'll pause here before we get into the capital budget. Questions about operating on the revenue side or on the expense side or anything in between?
have some anxiety about the investment income in the budget. Not that you're doing anything wrong, just I think a conversation about it would be good, because it's not always gonna be there,
Correct?
right? So it'll disappear as we use it for what we have it planned to cover. Capital, that kind of thing.
I'm sitting in there,
So-
but the last slide, he talked about,
We look better in some ways than we will be in years out because of the way it shows up here. And we have that 5 million you say that we got early, so
Yep.
it's not in next year. So there's a little bit of stuff that's gonna move. But that 2.3 in some ways looks a little bit better than the long term, right?
Yeah, so
Help me if
yes.
I'm talking about
Yes.
this right. Yeah.
Great. So one is when we think about the investment income, how reliable is this number of 7.5 million? And it's very, very reliable, right? We have over $180 million in our reserve. We have done a cash flow analysis of when we plan to spend down some of that money with respect to capital. We've projected that really over a 10-year period. And we've made sure that we aren't over estimating, in either direction, but especially in terms of the revenue side. We're not overestimating the income we'll receive off of that investment income. So in terms of what we've put in the budget is good. And then when we look at expenses over time, you're exactly right. As we do all these capital improvements, our investment portfolio will shrink because we'll be spending that money. And at the same time, our expenses are increasing at more than an inflationary rate right now because we're adding service. So once we get to service levels that were planned, that rate of expense will slow over time. And as that expense slows and our inflationary curve kind of flattens out, as will our investment income kind of, fade out as well. So we're making sure that we look out 10 years and we recalibrate every single year and keep pushing that 10-year horizon. We feel very good about how that balances out over time.
And
But it's
one
a
of the,
fine balance. I'm sorry.
yes, and one of the things you'll see at the board meeting and moving forward is we're moving a lot of those dollars from the overnight account to longer-term investments to ensure, regardless of what happens at the federal level, whether the interest rate goes up or whether it goes down, that we protect the organization over the course of the next 3 to 5 years. And you'll see that strategy when we do the investment portfolio.
And this is critical balance.
You're
for the
absolutely right.
next 10, 25 years.
As we also manage the ridership income and manage our expenses over the course of the next 5 to 10 years to assure that we have the operating dollars to operate the full Reinventing Metro. I'm really comfortable where we are right now.
I think there was an artfully worded bullet point on the assumptions, like,
Yes.
I don't know if it's the second or third one, that was basically saying we're balancing to get the stable income for long-term operations.
Yes.
It was worded way better than I just fumbled through
Well,
it, but
and,
okay.
and if we boil it down to kind of some very simple numbers, we know that in 3 or 4 years, our operating expense is going to increase by about $8 million when we have 2 corridors online, right? 2 BRT corridors. If you consider the $5 million timing of this federal money that is part of formula, we're showing about a $7.5 million surplus annually, right? And so that surplus also contributes to our reserve. So we're making sure that we don't overbalance the organization too early on expense side because we have to plan for this future BRT. We recalibrate that every year. We'll recalibrate as the year goes on, and we feel very confident that we'll be in good shape then.
Can I ask one more question?
Yeah.
All right, so the BRT operating costs that we have years out, are there other routes that would run less?
Yes.
So does that 8 million just cover how much we have to pay to operate it, or is it balanced out with other system adjustments?
As we're in the design mode right now, that is an estimation of about what it will cost. As we get closer to what the design looks like, so forth and so on, we'll make whatever adjustments we need to
Read the
make.
tea leaves. I'm sorry.
No, but
you
you're-
guys are weighing all that, of course.
You're exactly right, though. You're exactly right.
Thank you.
It's okay.
Andy?
Yes,
what-
sir.
Remind me what the annual yield is on our investments?
We're projecting what we've just done recently. Do you want to talk a little bit about this?
So we did a cost analysis over the course of the next 10 years, looking at our capital spend. So we've recently moved a lot of the dollars from the overnight account to longer-term investments, and it's anywhere from 5.8 to a little over 6%. So you will see less money in the overnight account. You'll see more money in the long-term investments. You'll see a much higher rate in the longer-term investments. And we had about $35 million in longer-term investments. About 70% of that mature this year. So over the course of the next year, it'll continue to go up a little. But we believe, from everything we've heard, the feds will start lowering interest rates next year. So we're locking in the higher interest rates now over the course of the next 3 years as a strategy to continue to bring revenue in based on the investment portfolio that we have.
And am I to appropriately assume that ridership and the metro fares are 100% correlated to each other?
Yes. Ridership and fares,
Yeah.
yes. So, and what we anticipate this year as we talk about fare capping, and what fare capping is really short, if I'm paying with my cell phone or with a smart card and I pay $2 to ride, if I ride a second time, I've now paid $4 to ride. So I've paid for a day pass. So all the other rides I make that day, I don't have to pay for.
Yeah, you
And once I hit $80 in the course of a 30-day rolling period, I've paid for a monthly pass. So the customers don't have to pay until that 30 days is up. So we believe it'll do two things. It'll increase ridership. It'll be better for our customers. For those that can't afford that monthly $80 pass up front, they still get the benefit of a 30-day $80 pass. So we think overall our revenue per ride may drop a hair, but our revenue will our ridership will increase. It'll be better for our customers.
Yeah, I was trying to understand the 0.5%.
Because of fare capping.
Okay.
But increased ridership helps us with our formula funds.
It helps us
right?
with our formula funds, absolutely.
Capture some of that back through another mechanism.
And of course, the higher our ridership, the more people ride, the more they tell their friends about the service. You get new customers. So the ridership piece, we're always working on increasing our ridership, not just more rides for those customers that ride, but also bringing new customers on. And that has to be our focus as we move forward.
Thank you.
Any other?
Yes, with the investment projections, I'm assuming that those are based upon the market trends.
Yes, and as Daryl said, there was a significant effort over the last couple months to move. If you remember, we had, $150 million in our overnight account. About $100 million of that has been moved into longer-term securities, so we are guaranteeing the return on the base of that money over a 3 to 4 year period. And so it is based on market trend, but we're also locking in a lot of those gains right now.
And our strategy will be to continue that, each year as we look at what the capital projections are, the next year out and the next year out, we'll continue that strategy to make sure that financially we're strategizing to take that money that we have and turn it into some additional income through investments based on a 10-year projection of how we're going to be spending our capital over 10 years.
Other questions on the operating budget?
We're really fairly well hedged for this next year.
Yes.
It's years out where the risk is, so,
In terms of fuel?
yeah.
Yes.
Do we hedge other things?
Not yet.
Stay tuned.
That's the next meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
Not yet.
Not exactly.
Is this budget conservative in your putting it together, or are you being aggressive at all, or is there somewhere in between
Somewhere in between. We're being aggressive on ridership. We hope that our ridership is higher than, although we've budgeted a 7.5% increase in ridership. We hope we do better. We'll continue our marketing strategy to increase ridership. We've been pretty on point on our expenses, but we'll work this year to find ways to reduce our expenses. So we're going to constantly be working on both the revenue line and the expense line all year. And as we come up with additional strategies and things change, we'll update the board as to how we believe it will affect our budget.
And the timing of new service on the street is almost entirely dependent upon our fixed route operator workforce level and our ability to recruit, train, retain operators. And as you know, we'll report out in the other meeting, we've seen significant improvements in that area. I think we're at maybe an all-time high in terms of number of fixed route operators at 525 this week, which is terrific. That being said, we don't control the labor market, right? And that's their number one expense in our budget is our fixed route operator workforce, and how much of that we can get on the street is not entirely within our control. So I would say, we're being optimistic about getting all of that service on the street in 24, but we have to be, because if not, we won't have room for it in the budget. So I hope that answers your question as well.
We're at a point now where we have to improve our customer experience. So we're not planning any additional, although it's planned in the budget, we won't roll out any additional service until our service quality gets much better. The two routes that we rolled out this month were more direct routes for CPS students. So we believe about 25%, 20 to 25% of the CPS students, 20 to 25% more CPS students will have a one ride trip from home to school, which is why we rolled that out this December. But we're going to be watching very carefully before we roll out any new service until we can get a hold of this labor market and get our service quality up.
Other questions on operating budget before we move on? Okay, capital budget. We'll start with our assumptions as we typically do. The foundation of our capital budget is replacement of our vehicles, right? So we continue to plan for about 25 fixed route vehicles a year, and also continued replacement of our access vehicles, as you all know, they're well past their useful life. With that, we have a long list of capital improvements that are kind of related to deferred maintenance, and we're continuing to attack our infrastructure and our facilities to make sure that we get those up to standard. I mentioned earlier, you'll see reflected in this is the first of 3 years of the BRT planning and project development, which is about $12 million. We continue to invest in technology, and as we learn more about that, as Daryl said, fine-tune that technology. And then also on the revenue side of the capital budget, very aggressive in terms of finding grants to fund any of these projects. There are about a dozen different federal grants that come out, state grants that come out every single year. We have a detailed plan of attack, and anytime one of those grants comes out, our grants team is working with our finance team and our capital managers to make sure that we are being aggressive in that space to bring in revenue to the organization. Next slide. And the next one will show you kind of the balance of the capital budget. We mentioned before, funding for 25 buses, the $12 million for BRT, the infrastructure, including things that you have already approved here, onboard electronic signs, bus stop enhancements. The land acquisition is related to our transit centers, right? We have Walnut Hills, we have North College Hill, that are both on the plan, and that's where the land acquisition expenses arise from. And then again, about $21 million over the course of this plan to improve our facilities. That equates to about a $63 million capital budget based on projects that are already in the pipeline, 2023 and years prior, and then the 2024 budget. Questions about capital? Okay.
You move too fast, Andy.
All right. Yep.
Give us a second.
Go back. Yep. Back to slide 13.
Go back a slide.
There we go.
There.
Yep.
How does that compare to last year? Projects that we keep running.
So a lot of these projects that you see 2023 budget carryover, we have a lot of projects in the pipeline. And those projects we budget for in 1 year, right? We say we're going to do this project and we need to get all the money to do it. Many of those projects take 2 and 3 years to do. So a lot of this is essentially our continual capital program over time. So we didn't do 72 projects over the last 2 years. We won't do 72 projects over the next year. So it's really just keeping tabs on the current state of affairs, attaching capital funds, which is largely from the reserve, to those projects, and then managing cash flow.
Can you remind me of the land acquisition? What land we're talking about?
Yes, so transit centers, I'm looking for SPDI to see if we have some help here.
I've got it. We're building a transit center in North College Hill. We're building one in Walnut Hills, and we're building a transit center in Uptown. And we've got federal dollars for all 3 of those. Part of building it will be to purchase the land. It is our goal to own our park and rides and our transit centers versus what we've done years previous is to lease them and deal with a lease every year. Our strategy is to own the property.
3 locations.
And those are the 3 locations in
Already
current.
started developing north side.
Not North Side, North College Hill.
Oh, North College.
North
Okay,
College
so
Hill.
The distance between the 2, I'm trying.
Yeah. And we've got federal funds for the 3 of them.
Okay.
Federal awards. The funds
in
aren't in the
North
bank
College
yet,
Hill?
but we have federal awards. All 3 of them have not been determined. We're pretty sure we know where Uptown's going to be. We're really close on Wanted Hills. That'll be coming back to the board as we get closer.
But we're not sure about North College Hill.
No, we're not sure about North College Hill yet. We've got a couple of spots that we've picked out. We're working with North College Hill to make sure it's in the right place and that they're part of that solution.
I think my only question, and I'll try to phrase it as best I can, but because a lot of these projects are happening over so many years, and we also include the anticipated increase in all sorts of different materials and even labor and all that stuff.
Absolutely.
So what is that? Is that a certain percentage that we kind of will see just over?
No, and the other piece Andy talked about a little earlier is we are aggressively going after grants to do some of these
To mitigate
projects
some
that
of
are in the
those.
pipeline. So one of the things we know is as we're awarded grants, some of the local dollars that we have in the planned budget for some of these projects will be filled with grant dollars, which will then be able to stretch these over more years. So our hope is that we're really aggressive at and we capture some of the federal grants and that some of these dollars will be available for other projects for other years out.
So is
We
there-
can't plan for that because we don't know what will be awarded, but
Right.
our strategy is to be very aggressive, to go after federal dollars for some of the stuff that we have local dollars in for. So it will balance itself out.
Does that strategy include how much we need in a percentage of the whole bucket for those grant dollars? Like we really need to have a minimum of this amount
Yeah.
in
So-
order to make sure that we can see through all these on a timely basis.
Yeah, exactly right. This budget and the dollars that you see in this budget are reflective of both 100% locally funded projects and the local match for federally funded projects. So if we have a grant, if we have $1 million project and we have $800,000 or 80% of that, it's already been awarded by the feds, the $20,000 local match is part of the numbers that you're seeing on this sheet.
I like that. I think that and maybe it's just me because I'm so visual. If when we share some of this, we're able to see whether it's color coded or even a pie chart, to be able to see, what amount of this is from those are essentially those free dollars. That would be nice so that I can just kind of
Sure.
So what I can tell you, the dollars here are all local dollars.
These are all local.
These are all local
Okay.
dollars.
Okay.
Yep. Those local dollars may be serving as match for federal dollars, but we can show you the federal dollars that we've been awarded that
Sure.
will help to support this plan. We can do that.
Yeah,
For
that
sure.
that'd be great in another slide.
Other capital budget questions?
So we have a lot more long-term in capital that we have to spend. So like, just giving context to this, right? Facility changes, sorry, Mike. Facility changes, fleet changes to zero emission vehicles.
Absolutely.
So we're in some ways laying a foundation right now for these huge projects that we need to complete in the next 20 years, as fast as possible, but these things take significant amount of time, right? So we have to keep that in perspective as well.
Yeah, I'm even interested on the technology side. I think there was a slide previously, Miss Natalie, about the technology and whatnot, but with things moving so quickly, and how AI is really impacting all of our things and automation and what that looks like. I almost wonder if you have to have like maybe even a separate conversation for what that looks like and our ability to be able to cover to make sure that we're really forecasting accurately what that impact is going to look like, because
It's why
We
we
don't have
have to,
much.
we have to be
can't-
so aggressive and pay attention
Right.
to what federal dollars are available, and go after those federal dollars. And show the delegation how transit is affecting
Yes.
this region. We talk about how we're one of just a few transit systems that's
We're really
over
the only one.
100% of pre-pandemic ridership. So being able to tell that story will help us get access to those federal dollars, so that we can A, catch up, and B, we don't fall behind
I think that we
again like
should
we have
lead that
decades.
entire national conversation on it. Seriously, I do. I think that we have the ability to do so, and we've got firms here that can be really, really great partners in aiding in that conversation, so that as they're trying to figure out the parameters and what that looks like, we can help write and where's Khalid? He's writing books already.
He is not with us today.
But yeah, we could. I think that's something to discuss. I'd really like further discussion on that for my.
Okay.
And just one more comment. I'm really hung up on that land acquisition, especially in North College Hills, how congested it is already. And whatever the city was doing with the streets, it's crazy. And so, I'm real curious about where we're gonna locate a transit center in North College Hill. And plus, I wanna make sure that what we're doing is not, or what property we acquire is not gentrification or moving people out of that area, okay? So, those are the kind of
Yes.
things I wanna make sure that we're
Gotcha.
paying attention to. And I see that dollar amount of 3 million, is that an estimate?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
'Cause
Well,
it's
that's
going
well.
higher
There's
than that
no.
now.
Well, we have some federal dollars too, though. That's just
Yeah,
a
I'm just
piece of
looking at
what we got.
the local.
Yes.
And then the piggyback, couldn't help it. But then the piggyback, we'll know that a lot of those things are about to go out to bid too for those. So are we putting some things in place and making sure we've got some workshops for some of our small businesses in those neighborhoods, so that he's like, yep, we got on lock, so that we can kind of prepare them to be ready to bid
Yes.
for their local. Okay. All right.
Yes, we're
I like to
also
know what it looks like.
leading the region
She's trying
on
to ride my
awarding.
horse now.
I am
Go
right.
ahead.
Small
No,
businesses.
I got another issue.
I piggyback off
I
the
got
great one.
another issue.
Absolutely.
Sure.
You didn't know a finance meeting was gonna be this fun, did you?
Any other questions about the capital side? Kind of in summary, the next slide, we talk about what we're doing in this budget, right? And this budget advances the strategic agenda. We continue to be directed by this board and by our CEO to deliver on the mandate of issue 7 and deliver on reinventing Metro. This continues that rhythm. We've talked about our capital investment over time quite a bit. We've talked about how investment income now, Blake, is now part of this puzzle and part of what we're going to manage and hopefully manage very effectively over the long term to benefit the organization and the region. And then we talked about bottom line $2.3 million surplus with $5 million kind of prepaid in 2023 that's not reflected in this budget. So our bottom line balance is around $7.5 million. And then we also continue our commitment to BRT with the first third of the planning development in our capital budget. And also, as you all know, in our investment portfolio, setting aside the $90 million to cover 30% of the capital with respect to BRT in the 27 to 29 timeframe. So that is kind of in conclusion. Happy to take any other questions, and our finance team is here as well if there are any other questions about the budget.
Yeah, and I'd just like to add one more thing. And in doing the budget this year, with Larry's passing, I'd just like to thank Kevin and Julie, if you guys will stand up, for all the hard work that they did to put this budget together.
Are there any strategic priorities that this budget does not allow you guys to do?
No.
Okay.
All right, I think from a staff perspective, we would need action to take this to the board for approval next week.
Okay. So we're not voting today, or we are?
Motion.
Okay,
Move it
okay,
to the full
okay.
board.
All right. I'd like to make a motion to approve the budget as presented.
Motion.
Second, go
Sorry,
ahead.
is that the motion, or is it just to move it to?
Just to move it.
Move to the floor.
Okay, just move it. Okay, motion to move it to the full board.
Second.
All right, any other comments? Okay, do we need a vote still? No? Okay.
All in favor?
Just- Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Say nay. Okay. We'll go ahead and move that to the full board. Thank you. Any new business? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and adjourn. Up to you.
All right. Let's go right into planning and I know that budget discussion can be a little, it grabs your mind, I would say, and you start thinking about all these different things. But we do have a lot in planning and ups to go over today. We just said the pledge. So I think we can move right into approving the minutes. I trust you've all had a chance to look at them. Any questions or concerns? If not, I'll move passage of the minutes from November. All in favor? Oh, I need a second. A second, thank you very much. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say left. The abstentions. All right, the minutes are approved. We've got a lot of good news. John, take it away.
We sure do. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Let's start it off with some great work done by our employees. Adrian, please.
Good morning. Bringing you the silver wheel winners for October. And so we're going to start with Mike Woolard. Mike is a Bond Hill maintenance employee and is just being recognized for all his understanding and being current and up to date on all the work requirements and procedures in the maintenance area, and always willing to assist his colleagues and new employees as they come on board. Next, we have our Leadership Employee of the Month, which is Bruce Adams. Bruce is a 43-year employee, and Bruce is part of the IT department and has spent a significant amount of the year helping get us set up with the IT help desk and support functions. And the help desk this first year has performed at 60% call resolution, which is above industry standards. And Bruce has been instrumental in ensuring that that effort continues to rise in terms of that percentage of resolution of first-time callers. Next, we have Bruce Tabor. Bruce is actually a 46-year employee and has been with us since 1977. Bruce is the Queensgate maintenance employee, and Bruce has performed beyond expectations per his manager and is a team player and often teaches all the new employees the ways of maintenance. And so he is being recognized for all of his work and effort and teamwork. And congratulations to those employees. Next, we have Bond Hill operator Sarah Dean. Sarah has been with us about 5 years now, and Sarah has been instrumental in providing safe and reliable service. She's got an OTP of 90.6%, no absences, no customer complaints, and no disciplinary actions in October. So congratulations to Sarah. And then next we have administrative support employee, Nia Good Mayo. Nia is part of the procurement department, and Nia has completed over 400 purchase requisitions in 2023. And the total spend on those projects has been about $3.3 million. And she negotiated a recent project which resulted in over $40,000 in savings on just that one specific project. So congratulations to Nia. And then finally, we have Queensgate Operator of the Month, Angel Blakes. Angel's been with us about 29 years, and Angel has never received a customer service complaint in over 20 years. And Angel has been an operator trainer with us and supports the training department as we have needs for over 20 years as well. And she's passionate about training operators and often gives 100%. And so congratulations to those employees.
It's amazing. Centuries of experience there. Wow.
Thank you, Adrian. We also have a very special acknowledgement and statement of appreciation for Metro employee bus operator Tashawn Grant. She recently received the Spirit of Deborah Leadership Award as well as the Leah Legacy Award from the Leah Institute. Their mission is to serve as a catalyst to connect women to their personal and professional leadership potential. Those of us that know Tashawn and her life story, including overcoming tremendous tragedy with the untimely loss of her youngest son, this is a very, very special recognition for a very special person on a journey that is nothing short of inspirational. We acknowledge Tashawn. We are thankful that we count her among our employee ranks. We are all better for being part of Tashawn's journey.
John,
Yes, sir.
the awards named after Deborah and Leah, who are they?
Scripture references is very, yes, absolutely. I'm on the spot here. I know, going back to going back to law school and the Socratic method here. Very much so, and everything that they do at the Leah Institute comes from Christian faith and faith-based organization, and I've recognized just a little bit of Tashawn's piece, but the work that she does in the community, a lot of food drives around Easter. She's constantly involved in their activities and throughout the community. So it's a wide-reaching experience for her in an organization that really gets into a faith-based approach to how women can overcome so many challenges in their life. Yes.
Thank you.
Next up, Andy's got some news about OKI grant related to BRT. Andy.
Thank you, John. Very timely, right? We talk about aggressively going after grants. A lot of these grants that we go after are for future year awards. We were awarded $8 million of STBG funds. Actually, these are highway funds that we can apply for that can be flexed over to public transit. We applied to OKI. We received $8 million toward the purchase of upcoming BRT buses. So we have, again, a couple years before this money will be available, but it helps us plan for our capital moving forward. So congratulations to Mary and our grants team for their excellent work in securing money for our future.
I think they should do some more.
All right. Thank you, Andy. We hope that last month the board had a chance to view the new hybrid buses. They are here. We are getting them online, getting them set to roll out after the start of the new year. As we roll them out into revenue service, we'll be testing how to best use zero emission technology, the geofencing technology that can help us go zero emission precisely where we want throughout the service area. Once we've got that data, we will maximize the full potential and return of this new addition to our fleet. Adrian also has some good news from the DEI team and getting in the holiday spirit. Adrian.
Yes, so we have reinstituted our diversity council here at Metro. We're real excited about that in 2023. And part of their efforts this year from a volunteer standpoint for the Thanksgiving holiday, they went out and spent time at St. Vincent de Paul making meal kits for families in need for their Thanksgiving dinner. So you can see a picture of some of the members there. It's a pretty robust group. It's pretty cross-functional, but that's a small representation of what the team really is in terms of those who are represented on the council throughout the organization. So they continue to do great things, and we'll have a lot more to report on in 2024 as they continue to work.
Thank you, Adrian. The Metro Adopt a Class teams are hard at work in now our second year of this partnership. There's a group of Metro employees visiting Ms. King's second grade class, led by Natalie Krusting, and I'll put her on the spot with two questions. One, how many teams are we up to now in Adopt a Class?
We have 7 teams. We teams at Lincoln Heights, Westwood Elementary, and AWL.
And what do we do in Ms. King's class?
We talked about teamwork, but I gave a presentation that was appropriate for 7-year-olds to keep them engaged. And then we did a project together, a teamwork project to create a meal together. So they were very engaged and had a great time. So a lot of fun and learning.
Right, yeah. Thank you, Natalie, and thanks for continuing to lead those efforts. And now we've got Brandy with some exciting marketing news in the holiday spirit as well. Brandy, please.
Good morning. It's beginning to look like the holidays, and we're getting in all the festive cheer, beginning with a sponsorship of the Chris Kindle Market. If you haven't already been down there at Smell Park, it is a fantastic holiday festival. And Metro is sponsoring the Go Metro Ice Slide. It is a 4-lane ice slide. So bring out the kid in you and your family and go and enjoy. There's food and shops and holiday lights, and it is free for everyone to enjoy. It does cost to do the ice slide, but the village is free, and it runs through December 31st. And you can go to the Cincinnati chriskindlemarket.com for more information on specific times. We are stuffing the bus for families in need during the holiday season. We just had one this past weekend, the Kroger and Coleraine, and there's 2 more coming up, one this coming weekend and one following. So please join us at the Kroger locations. We are accepting non-perishable food items between noon and 3 p.m. There will be a bus in front of the store, and we are looking to fill the bus so that we can help out so many families this season as they prepare for their holiday dinners. And continuing with the Stuff the Bus fun, we also want to get some toys for kids in need. And our procurement team is doing so much to spread the words about our projects that we have going on. Someone asked earlier, how are we engaging with our diverse vendors? And events like these, we are holding them at this one at TQL Stadium on December 14th, 9 a.m. to 2. And we're inviting small and diverse vendors to join us to learn about all the projects we have going on, how they can partner with us on those. And if they bring a gift for a child, they will also be entered into a raffle to get a wrap bus. So we're helping them even promote their businesses on our assets. So definitely a great opportunity for small and diverse business to engage with us on some of these really exciting projects that we have coming up. Thank you.
Thank you, Brandy. And here's just a few highlights of a very special night just a few weeks ago. 'Tis the season, it's award season at Metro. I think we have just one season like San Diego. We're always raking in the awards, and you know you've made it when your problem is how do you attend both of these award ceremonies on the same night, right? Tara from the Business Courier and Chamber, the Climb Award, and Brandy as well, the top award of the local PRSA Chamber. That's a good problem to have. So congratulations again, Brandy and Tara. That's the news, sir. Thank you.
Right. Thank you for that amazing news. And I hope the good news continues with the ridership report. Matt.
Good morning. Absolutely. The good news is it's the 5th day of the month, and we have the ridership report ready to go for the board meeting. So,
nice.
Yeah, the good news continues. We'll jump right into it here with fixed routes. Total ridership for the month of November was 1.1 million, which is 1.6% over our original budgeted KPI. And of course, local made up the bulk of those at 1,080,000 and 26,000 on express and commuter routes. Year to date, total ridership is 11.9 million rides, and that is 7.1% above the projections. The next slide just shows the 4-year trend. You see we took a little bit of a dip in November, but that's expected with seasonality, holidays, non-school days, and things like that. And the average ridership by day type, weekdays were right around budget at 44,000, Saturdays near 23,000, and Sundays 17,000. Keep in mind that Thanksgiving holiday is included in the Sunday bucket on this slide. It's the service we ran on that day. Passengers per hour on local routes was 18.9 or 3.0 above the budgeted KPI. And as you heard in the Finance Committee meeting, since the month is not closed yet, we don't have the finance information available for that, so I don't have the cost recovery for you, but we'll certainly get this updated and get it out to you. And passengers per trip on Express and Commuter was 7.5. We're about 3.9 off from the KPI of 11.4, and again, the same thing about the cost recovery. OTP was slightly up this month, so local routes were at 74.8, commuter and express at 70.7. The combined average of 74.6% on time. And the month of November saw 1,250 missed trips. Metro did operate 98.1% of all of our scheduled fixed route trips. And the next slide shows all of those missed trips by day of the month. The highest day you see there is being November 24th, or the day after Thanksgiving.
Do you include the route where the missed trips are? Do you have a route mapping?
As far as which routes, not handy, but we can definitely get that for you. Yes.
I would like to know the routes that are causing or receiving the most missed trips.
Okay.
Okay.
Sure.
Sorry.
All right. And the next slide will just show the average number of missed trips by day of the week. And of course, you see the spike there on Friday, which is due to the 24th. Yep. And moving on to Metro now, more good news with our MOD. It continues to grow. So we're up to 4,242 trips in November. That's up from just over 4,000 in October. And keep in mind, even with the seasonality, with November being a month we expect lower ridership on fixed route because of holidays, non-school days, election day, things like that, we still saw an increase in our Metro Now ridership. And we did operate at 97.8% on time. And here you see the number of rides taken, again, by day type. Weekdays averaging 163 rides, 106 on Saturdays, 80, almost 81 on Sundays. Again, keep in mind Thanksgiving Day is included in the Sunday numbers on this. And finally, moving on to paratransit. So Access provided just under 15,000 rides in the month of November, which is 1.5% higher than the original budgeted number. 13,650 on weekdays, nearly 600 on Saturdays, and 700 on Sundays. And year-to-date, Access has provided 167,751 rides. That's 5.1% above the original projected numbers. And here we see our 4-year trends. Again, just the seasonal dip in November as we would expect. And Access on-time performance has improved this month, nearly 91%. And again, don't have the cost information for you, but passengers per hour came in at 1.98 or 0.22 below the KPI. The scale on the chart is a little bit off. It looks like it's a big dip, but it's really not. It's only 0.22. And the rest of the information route by route is available in your packet. Any questions I can answer?
So missed trips went up. Sorry, I always have to ask about this, but explanation is the holiday callouts around the holiday is the primary mover. Okay. So the narrative we're working on is that they're going down. We have more staff. As the staff gets more experience, the OTP goes up. But sometimes you'll see instances where it goes against what the plan is because of a holiday. So we have this as another possibility this month.
The possibility this month is we added the 2 new routes to give more students direct routes to schools. So we did add some service to crosstown routes. So we're hoping that it will be offset somewhat by the number of operators that are coming out of training. But we don't expect to see a big dip this month. But again, as I mentioned earlier, we are focused on this and we will not be rolling anything else out until we get our missed trips down.
Okay. All connected to those strategic goals of having fabulous service to increase ridership. So we have to keep an eye on this. Okay. How about that one route we talked about last month that
Sure, absolutely. So I'll let you know next month. We changed that route and made some modifications to it. That took effect 2 days ago. So hopefully we'll have it at the end of the month.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Thank you for the ridership report. Now I think this is what everybody's super excited about, the presentation on the bus stop signs, benches, shelters. I think a lot of energy went into this from last month to pull this narrative together on what we're doing. So please take it away.
Thanks, Blake. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the Planet Ops Committee. Steve Anderson for the record. Here to kind of put you all in the picture. We have a lot going on in terms of our 3,800 bus stops. Some projects have already been in the works. Some are already on the ground. I'm trying to put you all in the picture. But this map is really interesting. Starting off, this map would be appropriate to show that we are truly a regional transportation agency. Our bus stops aren't just in Cincinnati or Hamilton County for that fact. We have bus stops in Claremont and Warren and Butler counties. Roughly 15% of these stops have a bench or a shelter. Certainly one of the aims of reinventing Metro is to get that number moving more towards 25, 35, 45%. But, you know, we have some major issues with our current bus stops. As you all are probably aware, you know, they're hard to see at night. Signs are, you know, most of them were installed in 2006, 2007, so they've started to reach sort of the end of their useful life. There's a lack of uniformity in height, and all of this is kind of why we're reinventing Metro anyway. But, you know, the stops kind of hiding. Some stops are 3 feet tall, some stops are up in the air 30 feet. So you talk about marketing. How are you going to market a service or a system where I don't actually see the bus stop? It's not actually visible. So we're going to take care of all that with these projects I'm going to describe to you. So is that our next slide? Yeah. Yep. So these are some visuals. You all have seen these. We're in the downtown. We're in the suburbs. We're out in Delhi. But the uniformity of the bus stop sign. Now, I will salute previous regimes' pragmatism. We were able to put signs on things and keep costs low and still provide service. However, this is not what we would refer to as best-in-class service. You see the pole that is somewhat Tilted, that's over on 7th Street by the Greek restaurant. You have a sign out on, I think that's Coleraine Road. It's kind of bent up. You can't hardly see the route, plus it's 30 feet up in the air. And then this sign all the way to the right is on top of a passenger crossing sign. But you see it's tilt and it's bent. So that's kind of hard to see, and it's not the best waiting area in general anyway. Next slide. However, we have been making progress. We have been putting benches and shelters in the ground. We've put about 30 shelters in the ground since 2022. We've put 66 new benches right here in the city and the county since 2022 as well. So we are starting to make some traction in terms of improving infrastructure. Both of these bus stops are on the west side. However, bus stops get ran over, so shelters get damaged. Folks are driving fast down Coleraine. These are both in Mount Airy. This is on Hawaiian Terrace. You see the shelter is completely destroyed. So we have an ongoing maintenance need. Putting up a bench and shelter is fine, but you need that back office maintenance to support every day providing world-class transit service. So we're going to talk a little bit about our maintenance activities as well. So now I've kind of laid out the needs in terms of cleaning. You know, we want clean, attractive bus stops. They need to be well maintained. And this is a point that has reached our customers. We did an onboard survey a couple months ago. 44% of our customers said they were satisfied with the condition and or cleanliness of our bus stops. That's just not cutting it. That's just not good enough. So the good news is we have a plan, and we have major grant funding to tackle each and every one of these problems, but these are the kind of 4 breakdown that we need. Cleaning the bus stops, keeping them clean every day. Maintaining them when they get damaged, when they get bent, when they go missing. Installing new ones so folks know that we are paying attention to the needs and how demographics have shifted, how ridership changes, and overall improving the user experience. We want this city to be known as a transit city. There's a great opportunity with just how the bus stops look. They say, look, I am here. Look, I am an option. Look, you can't miss me. You're going to see me, which is not what we have now. So first off, cleaning bus stops. I think last month you all approved the bus stop cleaning contract. These are for the grounds, litter, broken glass, cigarette butts, gum on the seats for all shelters, benches, and grounds within a 20-foot radius of the bus stop itself. Right, so we're taking that major first step. The vendor has been put in place as of December 1st, Brightview. That status has been implemented. We have a 5-year contract with them. That's already on the works. We're already starting to clean bus stops right here in Hamilton County. So that's one notch on the belt we can check off. Next slide. What we'll be bringing on to you later today as part of this meeting is a maintenance contract for the signs and the poles. So signs get run over, signs get missing, poles get defaced, poles need to be replaced due to service changes. You know, we just put in new routes, you gotta put those sticker decals up. This work is separate from the cleaning contract. This is a separate contract that we'll be bringing forward to this board this month. So, we do about 4 service changes a year. We still have extra service signs that are still up, like on Dorchester. That extra service is never coming back, but yet the sign is still there. So we need that detail, that QA/QC, to make sure our bus stops are actually bus stops that are in service, they're clean, but also that the information on the sign itself is accurate. There's nothing worse than standing at a bus stop for a route that's no longer coming and someone's yelling at you down the street, if you're lucky, telling you the 4 doesn't go in the back of Silverton anymore, that kind of thing. So that's one contract we'll be bringing forth later today. Next slide. Installing amenities. We've already got a bench contract. We have a bench contract, going to do 500 benches over 5 years. We already have a vendor, Pruce. That bench you see is powder-coated black aluminum that is made from a local manufacturer. That's already happened. We already have 66 in the ground as of today, with another 34 by the end of the month. That contract started in January, so it's basically 100 a year. So be on the lookout for more bus benches. Also, with the bus benches, we are required by federal law to make those bus bench locations ADA comparable. So if you see the next slide, this is out on Glen Hills and Boudinot, in front of the Walgreens. In November 2022, that's what it looked like. You had folks, busy bus stop, you can tell because the grass was worn down on the left photo. On the right side, that's what it looks like as of August. So you see it's clean, it's accessible, you have a bench there, and all that nice concrete means if there's more ridership, we can actually put more benches there in the later future. So this is kind of what we're trying to do to level set our amenities to match truly the spirit of reinventing Metro. Same idea with the bus shelters. This is on Ezra Charles and Lynn Street, the West End. You all are aware that we did a ribbon cutting on the West End shelters. This is the before and after. Certainly an improvement, right? So you have that older shelters, probably about 20 years old. Now we have a brand new shelter that commemorates the life and the spirit of some folks that live in the West End. This is kind of what we're trying to do with our bus shelter program and make it interesting, make it inviting, make folks feel the quality of the service that they're going to get. So bus shelters, I talked a bit about bus shelters. We are going to finish up our current, we have a current back order about 25 bus shelters that we're going to put in the ground. But then another contract will be coming to you in the Q2, Q3 timeframe of 2024 for an actual proper bus stop shelter installation contract. That will be to fabricate, deliver, and install. It may not necessarily look like what we have now. I think for branding's sake, we would want to keep it somewhat similar. But that vendor and that scope is all in development. And we're going to use ridership and available property to kind of determine where those bus shelters make sense to put in. But we're talking about 200 to 250 bus shelters in 5 years. That was one of the promises of Reinventing Metro, Issue 7. And by golly, we're going to deliver on that. So we're really excited about that. It's going to be a great opportunity. We can do artwork, partnerships with some of our folks in the nonprofit space. The sky's the limit in terms of making those shelters great. So we're really excited about that. So that's coming in Q2 24. The bus stop design project, okay, so we're talking about bus shelters, installing amenities. We'll close that loop on that. And these next 3 projects I'm really, really excited about because we are leveraging some partnerships right here in Cincinnati to make these dreams come true. The first off is the bus stop design project. Our bus stop designs right now could be much improved. So with the vision of our CEO and our CDO, we said, why don't we leverage some real folks in Cincinnati, folks that know how to do this. So we actually entered a contract with DAP, Design, Architecture, Art, and Planning here at the University of Cincinnati, to help us design what the next bus stop sign would look like for Metro. Next slide. So they set to work in May 2023. Their goal was to redesign all 4,000 bus stop signs and poles. It's a huge lift, but first we actually need to see what the sign and the pole is going to look like. So you see these photos, the student team hard at work. We have a team of 3 professors representing various disciplines in the DAP school at the University of Cincinnati. The design is nearly complete. The ELT has had a chance to weigh in, but I just wanted to kind of point out how cool this project was, because not only have they designed a bus stop, they actually have visualization software in your bottom right corner of this slide that kind of can predict what you're going to focus at as just a normal person. Basically, what catches your eye. AI, Board Member Clark, you talked about it earlier. We have AI for everything now. It's going to be really, really crazy in the future. But this is a form of that where it's predicting what is actually going to catch your eye. So using that, we want a bus stop sign that is going to catch your eye. We're here, we're new, we're Metro. You can't miss us. Please try us out. And the almost final design is on the next slide. We're really excited about it. So you can see the model here. It's clean. The logo is somewhat changed. We still pay homage to our color scheme, but you can see the different variations. You have the sign in the middle that's for 1 to 4 bus routes. And then maybe you have a different type sign for your Hathaway's Diner stop right there on 5th and Vine. You know, it's got 15 routes stopping at it. So we can't fit it all in the same way. But these will be individual plates that will bolt into the pole. We're looking at a cylindrical pole right now. So it's going to look real nice. It's going to look real high end. And it's going to say that we care about you using our transit service because it's going to look like something. So we're excited about that.
Is that were those QR codes at the bottom?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And that'll be a braille pad. So folks that need to feel for the bus stop, it will be completely different from a city pole or a pole in Norwood. It'll be unique and original to Metro.
At my level.
Another thing about this project, we didn't just want to sit down at Huntington and have our way. We're actually going to build prototypes of 3 variations of this design and actually put them out at the garages at Bond Hill, Queensgate, and at Access, and kind of have a contest. What are your operation folk think? What are your supervisors? What are the folks that are out at the campuses? what's their favorite design, and then we'll go forward from there. So that new sign project, we'll probably get the final design probably in Q1. And that's where the fun part ends and hard part begins. Because I get a design, that's great, that's a CAD drawing. Enabled to manufacture these, I need a separate contract. So next slide. So DAP does a lot of great things. However, they're not tapping poles into the dirt or drilling into concrete. So I would need another contract. I'll come back to you all hopefully Q2, Q3 timeframe to basically manufacture, deliver, and install 4,000 and replace the old signs that we'll be getting rid of, 4,000 stops in Hamilton County and other areas. So that scope's still in development. I can tell you we do have grant funding allocated to this purpose. That's going to be a major lift. I would be surprised if we're not in a few articles, a couple mass transit blurbs. It's going to be hot, man. And the best thing about it is your people are going to see it every day. I mean, they might complain, oh, I miss the old signs, but we think more 3 out of 4 people are like, wow, this is great. This is great. So we're really excited about that. A rendering of what it could look like is in the bottom right corner. And yes, the signs are big. We're still working on the sizes. We don't want them too big. But you'll see that sign there, you can see from both sides. So if I'm on the other side of the street, I'm walking towards the sign. Right now, you can't tell what routes or what stops there. You'll be able to see this from both sides. And it'll tell you where you are. So I look at the sign, oh, where am I? You're at Town Center Way and Anderson Park and Ride. It'll actually say where you are on the bus stop sign. It'll be reflective at night. Folks won't have to shine their cell phones by the bus stop out in the street anymore. People will be able to see it. So we're really excited about that. And that is a big lift. We will be plenty busy in the next year or so. Next slide, I'm almost done. In addition to that, we know we need more innovative customer enhancements at our bus stops. One cost-affordable way, because I have 4,000 bus stop signs, I got 45 routes. We found are these real-time e-paper signs. These are black and white signs that are very visible. They run on solar power, and you can actually install these on the bus stop pole, and it'll tell you in real time when the routes are coming. So I'm waiting on the Route 24. I'm out on Jefferson. The bus is actually delayed. Similar to your app would update. These signs would update. So you don't necessarily, if you don't have the app or you're just wanting to try Metro, you can actually see in real time the next 4 or 5 arrivals at that bus stop. These vary in sizes. We'll get some bigger ones probably for some of our transit centers, if Holly will let me. And then some small, and then some slightly taller ones for some of your busier stops that are not quite transit centers. Again, we do have grant funding that we're looking to allocate towards this project. They're not necessarily cheap, but we're looking to start that in 2024 because I actually need the poles to put the signs on. So systematic.
Where are these installed? That's a similar that has similar demographics.
Butler has one. Indigo has several, Cleveland has several, Coda has several, and then your larger transit agencies. I know Cap Metro and Austin's 500. Portland will have an APTA conference out there in a few months. They have 2,000 of these, of varying sizes. So it kind of depends on what your budget is as well.
What's the maintenance like on this?
It runs on solar. You have a battery that the manufacturers are going to guarantee for about 5 years. So as we see, we're always watching our peers to see how these procurements and these projects go. Another 5 years, you may need to spend more to replace them, but we'll finalize and get those details to make sure we're stepping in the right unison to make sure we get the best product.
What type of covering is on that?
That is tamper-proof. And so yes. So this is basically a computer. It's basically an iPad at the bus stop. So you have to be super vandal resistant.
Right.
So some agencies put them 10 feet up in the air. That kind of defeats the purpose. If Mrs. McGillicuddy can't see the information that is showing. So as casings and things start to improve, we'll definitely keep an eye on that. But yeah, the vandal resistant aspect of this project, it can't be understated. Yeah.
So will there be would you have to add features to this in order to make it as vandal resistant as possible, or you can just utilize this and then attach it to a pole, or will there be something else we have to
We anticipate off the shelf that is vandal resistant. Now, if Cincinnati has a new special kind of vandal that is going to come around in 2024, 2025, we will adjust and pivot accordingly because we're very interested in protecting our investment.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have sophisticated
vandals. No
know what we're doing out here in these streets.
They've been to
Okay.
school.
Again, just another photo of kind of our vision for the future in 2024, 2025. There's going to be a lot of work there. We know we need to permit. We know we still need to work with our cities to make sure that this sign and pole, what exactly I's we need to dot and T's we need to cross to get these in the ground. We've already had towns like Marymount reach out to us and say, let us be your first. So we're really excited about it because different cities have different permit process. But
Sarah,
yeah,
did you have
that's kind of where we're sitting with bus stops.
Yeah, thank you. Steve, thank you. This is an incredible presentation and super exciting. And I could probably ask you questions for the rest of the day about it because I'm very interested in all of it. But I will just say that I'm so happy to see and learn about the partnership with DAP. I think that is so smart and so strategic on so many levels. You know, the work is really high quality. The fact that you've engaged students and the local talent is great. And hopefully that story will be told as this rolls out because it just, you know, connects us with a younger population who, you know, we want to be using our service. And, you know, I just think that that was a really smart move. So thank you for all of this.
Daryl and the ELT, man.
I am.
To get
I'd
even,
also like to say that we have a $3.6 million earmark to help fund this, and another earmark in the process that has not been approved yet. But we're also going after federal dollars to help offset the cost of this.
I think this,
Yeah, I too want to congratulate Mr. Anderson. These are fantastic looking
they're
designs.
very
The blue poles in particular, I think is really neat how you incorporate it. It'll stand out. I've got one question. Mr. Cassie mentioned this last meeting. How much has the city challenge with these concrete benches affected your work in the past couple
Board
of years?
member Gios is not going to come up. Yeah.
Why did you bring this up?
I can take a stab at that.
No. Let me, if you would. We are working with the city as we put these in to have them move the other benches. We have no control over the other benches. I know that the city is in litigation with a vendor that actually puts those benches out. They're not in litigation?
That litigation.
Oh, okay.
That's why I brought it up. It's been going on for years, that
Yes,
litigation.
you're
So I
correct.
just wanted to, as we talk to the city, talk to them about how much delay this may have caused us. And I'm curious, just as a body.
We have conversations with them constantly. Work real well with John Brazina to help us get the permits and whatnot to get them in the ground. We're working in hand with the city to move this, and not just the city, because these won't just be in the city of Cincinnati. These will be all throughout Hamilton County. They're well aware of everything that we're doing, and we're working together. And as we put things in, we're asking them to remove those concrete benches as we move forward. We don't have a lot of control over what happens with those, if you understand what I'm saying. We don't. SORTA does not.
But you can remind all the people you know in the city
Yes.
that
Yes.
action is needed.
That's a long, let me make sure I'm clear. First of all, I'm really excited about this project. I think it's high-end and very impressive. I think we're gonna be leading the city as they try to develop and come into the ages of the future. I think we're gonna be a major part of that. So I applaud the whole team for putting this together. I want to make sure that I understand what I will be voting for. I will be voting for maintenance and cleaning of the current location. Is that correct?
You already approved that last month,
Right, okay,
cleaning.
that's what I want to make sure.
Yep.
And so you're looking at extending that contract or renewing it?
Completely
Renewing
separate,
it or-
completely separate contract that we're bringing this month.
I want to get clear.
Poles and signs only.
Yeah, okay, all right, then I'm okay.
And if you remember, Board Member Metz had asked that we provide this presentation because you were starting to see 1 and 2 procurements come through related to this. And I think Steve did an excellent job of showing comprehensively what the plan is over the next few years, right? So when you see a one-off procurement come through related, we can refer back to this and tie it to the larger vision because there are a lot of moving parts. And that was the, I guess, request of Mr. Metz to have this presentation.
Very impressive. I was just trying to make sure we're there's an old one and then there's a new one.
Right.
And other things to add in is there have been a lot of actions before this set that have enabled it, right? The bus stop optimization project, reviewing all of them, getting to the number that we actually have. So this is, I mean, 6 years, if not longer,
Right.
and a realization
Yeah.
of that strategic vision.
Yeah, it is. And it'd be more exciting to have it in a thriving city that's got 16 projects underway throughout it. Great city up there north.
We got you
Forest
covered.
Park, I
remember.
think, would be a great
KZ,
place to
did you?
unveil. To unveil this.
Yeah, good report. As we know, customer service is very important, so cleaning the buses and new benches and all that. Just curious, any of the vendors that you talked about, Brightview and the bench contract, the sign contract, any of those vendors minority?
I believe there was one bidding on this one that we'll bring to you.
So they're still bidding? Okay.
But the one Brightview, I can't recall. That would be probably procurement, better answer for that.
We could take a look at that, Sheriff.
Can I ask a question? It's about current services. I'm glad you brought that up. How often, we have a contract with a vendor to come around and clean the shelters and clean where the benches are, is that correct?
That's correct.
And how often do they come around?
They've been in place for, this is the first, they've been in place for 5 days, but the plan is they have 3 teams of basically guys and gals with trucks, and they have zones. So east, central, west, plus we have 100 really high utilization, high trash, if you want, if you will, stops. Like, for example, Hughes Corner. Like that, we just can't keep it clean. So they have to visit those twice a week on non-consecutive days. So we have 100 stops just like that. So how they divide the team up, we're still kind of trying to go back and forth on what's the most optimal way, because you don't want them going from Beachmont to Colerain. You kind of want to kind of parse it out in a way that is advantageous and efficient for them to hit as many without going all across town. But they're providing good service so far, and we're going to test them because I have a backlog.
Yeah, because there's one area, that I go by and trash is all over the place. I mean, can is full, and it takes more than, think about it. It takes more than 5 days to get that kind of trash. So you would think that somebody's visiting there more often. And the location, I question the location, but we'll talk about that location another time.
Please, thank you.
But I just want to know how our maintenance, and is there minority participation on the maintenance? I get asked that question a lot, especially emptying the garbage and doing the lawn care.
I can't recall. I'm not sure if they have a team that subs
All
out.
the maintenance and cleaning it up around, if we can do that.
When we look at other countries, in terms of how they handle trash, they definitely employ a lot of technology. In that, have we even considered how we can use compactors that are solar powered, and what the offset of that cost would be in comparison to actual people and having to address those areas? I think that I would like to at least consider it, or wonder if you all have considered. You all know what I'm talking about, right?
Yes.
Okay.
We have not yet, but we can absolutely take a look at that.
2023.
Yes.
It's a good idea.
On those top 100 stops, I had not heard of that before. Have we ever done anything like an Adopt a Stop program, partnering with neighborhoods or other organizations to help keep those clean?
Board member Sheets, I've only been here 3 years. I'm sure we have at some point, but definitely as we level set, kind of get a good baseline, that's something we could definitely explore. I think.
Yeah, I'm just thinking in
think
my
that'd be
neighborhood,
great, actually.
like there, I think people would be happy to adopt a spot. And
I think we need to
great
pursue
ideas.
that, Sarah, because, excuse me, I had, remember Bond Hill was really pushing for a shelter, and we finally got something there on Langdon Fireman at Reading. And the neighborhood was complaining about the garbage, and one of the neighbors just went over there and started cleaning it up himself. And it was informal, but I think that idea, if they're requested and really needed and wanted, then they could be a partner in paying attention to that, or making a call and saying, hey, can you get somebody over here?
Yeah, it helps create ownership in the neighborhood.
He started cleaning himself right in front of Max Stewart.
Yeah.
And I think that the key here is like this story's not over, right? We've been working on it for 6 years. We're realizing a lot, but then all these ideas, the trash compactors, and the adopt to stop, and other ones are how we're going to advance it over the next 6 years beyond that, and even further. So, we have 7.5% ridership budgeted for this next year, but we're going to need more ridership and more ridership and more ridership in the years out. And these are the ways we do that.
That's correct.
There are other ways too, but
That's correct.
yeah.
I just
All
have
right.
Yeah,
go ahead.
One last comment or question. Not that we would need to go back and redo anything, but when we think about the marketing and the branding, right? This is really about making sure we have branded high-end equipment and spaces and whatnot. When we look at these benches, I don't know that I see the bench and I synonymously think, oh, that's Metro. And so I just wonder, and I just want to know the thought process behind when we came out with just a black stripe bench, like how that complements, and in the future of those implementation of those benches, is that set in stone on the look of that? It is? Okay. Well, then.
Oh, no, I'm saying that's a good question. Because
So-
I remember the discussion when we were choosing those benches.
I'm
And I don't
like-
think we had all this other
I'm a
stuff
little-
worked out.
Yeah,
And
it's
so
kinda
it's a
like-
great perspective to bring that in. Yeah.
Spray
Yeah,
paint
we
Metro
could-
on the back of the seat, okay?
I think we were talking a lot about advertisements on those benches
Yeah.
back then.
Yes, there is a city ordinance that
Okay.
says what the benches can look like. We can put advertising on those benches. We have in the past put advertising on those benches, but what happens is it gets broken off and torn off. It is something we'll look at in the future. Is there another way to put that on there that you're not changing it
I'm
once a
thinking
week
that-
because
yeah.
they're being torn off? But it is something that we are allowed to do. We are allowed to put advertising on those benches.
I'm not thinking the advertising. I think that's slightly tacky. But
It was so, it
But
was,
I'm,
it was
I'm
Metro,
thinking the
it was Metro.
fabrication when it, if you had like SORTA actually in the back of the seat versus the stripes, things like that.
Yellow,
That's what I'm
high
wondering.
yellow.
About just
Yeah,
changing
or
the
just
color
a
to
change.
Colored.
Yeah, I mean, it couldn't be painted because that'd be a lot of upkeep, but like you have a blue pole that's not going to be
We'll take a look at
chipping.
that.
Yeah.
Can you have, things like that? Just that's all I'm wondering.
Fabrication.
Yeah. Just ways to spend more money to just.
Just the basic colors at least.
Yeah, at least
have it match
blue and
that
yellow or
color.
something.
Use
All
that
right.
color.
Green, even if that just green handle, I don't know, but something that really signifies so that everything is cohesive.
So, oh yeah.
If the bus stops already gonna have Metro branded on the poles, we'll be spending more money on the color of the bench.
The standalone benches, though, I'm talking about the ones that are out.
Be under shelter.
Not a lot of those.
Why? Who cares what color the sign is, as long as they can sit down? I mean,
I do. Because we're talking about the branding and marketing of it. We don't have to have blue poles either. We can have a black pole with all those green signs, but we're electing to have blue poles.
But if there's no cost between a
Yeah,
blue
and I'm
bench
just
that
asking.
matches-
That's why I'm putting it like that. Like, how are we looking at it? And if we could do a cost analysis on it and see if that's something that we could consider, or if not, I just wanted to know why we didn't think about it.
And I think if I remember that meeting years ago, the goal was to get the bench out, give people
Yeah, we were just
a
trying to
place
get them out.
sit, right? But there's something in as we evolve to say, all right, if there's a blue bench that's the same cost as the black one and it matches, just adjust our ordering, and then we'll see where else it goes. I think it warrants a look. All right, we do have some action items to get to, some actually connected directly to this. Any last questions for Steve?
so the same people who would do the design for the bus stop poles will do the installations also?
Not at all, completely separate.
And I do have questions about the action item from today and the longer-term poles and installation. So maybe we can talk about that as we get to that action item. Yeah. Okay. So thank you very much for the briefing. I think we now move right into these action items. The first one on the agenda is the lease of the office right by Government Square. Is that right?
The first is our
Correct Town.
Oh gosh, I got it out of order. Okay, so that's a space. There was a map in there. Who's gonna present? Khaled's not here.
I'll fill in
Steve.
for
Okay.
Khaled as best as I can.
Great, thank you.
Sure. So, ladies and gentlemen of the Planning Ops Committee, Colerain Town Center, it's been a major turnaround for our Colerain routes. Right now, it's the 19, the 16, the future 61. We've been turning around there. It was Hobby Lobby. Now I believe it's Dick's and AutoZone right there. And being out in that area with all that retail service industry, having a turnaround is so important because you really don't have any other suitable place to turn that service around. So this is basically a re-up on what we've already been doing with Colerain. The cost did go up a bit. It's $1,650 a month. It's a 3-year agreement with total expenditure not to exceed $134,400. We also will be providing a bench and a trash can there, and these will be local operating funds. So,
How long was the last agreement? How long was the last agreement?
I believe the last agreement was on a 2 or 3 year. 3 years.
Can you show the map? Some of us are very visual. I think it was.
It's in the item. Yep, all the way to the back.
There you go.
So down in the bottom left there, you can see how we pull through there by the Hobby Lobby. And there's a stop in there.
Bathrooms, they let us use the bathrooms, which is so important as we expand service.
For the operators.
Yep. Yeah.
So it turns around there and then it goes south.
Yep, hooks a left.
You know, I still am harping on our need to really put those benches or shelters right there on Colerain in front of where Northgate is right now. I mean, it's dangerous over there.
Couldn't agree more.
It's dangerous. So, you know, I want to be able to say, I'm gonna make a motion to approve this, contingent upon the fact that the benches and the shelters or whatever is included, that the staff is looking at proceeding forward and getting some kind of benching
Absolutely.
over there, because people are all over the place. It's a dangerous area.
Absolutely. We're partnering with Colerain Township. Their permitting process is a little less onerous than the city of Cincinnati. So look for that
I
Q1.
won't put that in motion, but I make
Okay.
a motion.
I was going to say, do we have to get out a pen here and start adjusting it?
No, I won't put that in motion.
I think we're all in agreement and supportive of your comments there. So, and it is all part of what we're trying to do.
Right.
Okay. So this is also, correct me if I'm wrong, not to exceed, because there's potential maintenance costs in there that won't necessarily occur.
Correct.
Okay, great. So waiting on Gwen's motion on this one.
Without all the other stuff. I motion to move forward the lease agreement for the turnaround at Colerain Town Center.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded, and I think on the consent agenda, unless any objections. All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say left. Any abstentions? All right, great. Now we're going to move on to the procurement action items. Right?
Yep.
Andy, you're going to take that?
Yes. Thank you. We have a number of procurements before you this month. The details included in your packet. Most of these are pretty straightforward. Some will probably require a little bit of discussion. Our sales office lease agreement. We have a lease agreement with MCA for the mercantile retail space that we use in the mercantile building between 4th and 5th Street near Government Square. That lease agreement has an extension available to us for 5 years. We'd like to execute that extension. represents about a 5% increase contract over contract. About a 2% per year escalator is in that contract from 2024 to 2028, and that's including our local operating budget. The bus stop sign and pole installation, this again, as Mr. Anderson said, is for the installation of those signs and poles, keeping up with changes in our network and so on and so forth. And that's being recommended to award for a 5-year contract at $907,000, and that's also in our operating budget. Retail electricity supply, this is essentially an effort that was generated out of the finance department here at Metro last year. A conversation began. It was actually Mr. Pinkleton who had experience, I think in higher ed, of using a broker to procure utilities, specifically electricity service. Currently, we pay for electricity just like everybody else does. We pay our Duke bill, right? Well, we have the opportunity to engage a broker to see if we can get better pricing through contracting for electrical supply. So this would be allowing, if we were to do that, that would result in a contract, and we would need board approval to approve resulting contracts from getting price quotes for electricity. The only reason to move forward in any potential pricing would be that it would save money over our existing method of procuring electricity or essentially paying for electricity. The next one is, the next two actually are continuation of our legal services contracts. Both represent very slight increases in the 4 to 5% range for both our general counsel and our labor employment legal services. The recommendation is to stay with our incumbent law firms, Voorhees on the general side and Densmore on the labor side. And both of those amounts are reflective in our 2024 operating budget. That's the overview. Happy to go through these one by one or take any questions that anyone has.
Andy, I have a quick question. With the retail electricity, is that similar to like an aggregation almost?
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about this.
Okay.
This would be new to Metro.
Okay.
And that's why we want to bring it to the board and have a little discussion.
The retail electricity supply contract is more aligned with fuel hedging, where we're buying electrical supply at a specific rate, and we're locking in that rate for a specific period of time.
But we're able to get the leverage and advantage of the cost because we're such a large consumer.
And
right?
we're locking in for a longer period of time than simply a month-to-month agreement with a local supplier.
And the 8 million is just based on our maximum of like 1.6 times 5 years. Is that how
Correct.
you got to that?
My first thought was, let's get a grant for reducing our energy usage.
Yeah.
I think that would
Procurement,
be a good
talk to
idea.
grants for that.
Okay. And this could also change, probably more than 5 years out, but with electrical usage for charging buses and that kind of thing. So
Yeah,
this
as
is
our
for
consumption goes up,
facilities.
being able to lock in a low rate is actually going to pay higher dividends in the out years.
Yeah. And that lock-in is for 1 year at a time?
It can be 1 year, 2 years. It's however long the third-party supplier is willing to go for that particular rate.
And we're willing to go as well. Okay.
So I had a question on the bus stop sign and pole installation.
Me too.
Want to make sure I understand what's going on here. Is this for the new poles, for an interim set of poles and signage, or a hybrid of the two?
A little bit of both. So what we currently have need maintenance, and currently what we have will need maintenance. As we switch over and do that one-time swap, that's a whole separate contract.
Okay.
Because it's mammoth. Ongoing, we will still need those specialized signs and poles. We'll still need maintenance. After said vendor goes and does it one time, we'll still need maintenance in the next 5 years. So this is for that.
I'd also like to mention this is an up to contract. It's an up to contract as needed.
I'm
So
so
with-
surprised the vendor. I had no idea they were going around putting signs and I had no idea.
So with this contract, would one of the potential projects be going and removing signs that we're not going to need
Precisely.
in the future? Okay,
Extra service signs come down, old routes that aren't there anymore, that kind of thing.
great.
Okay. Any other questions on that one? I think the sales office I enjoy going into it and picking up some information every once in a while. The location is really good, so that's good. Unless anybody has questions on that. All right, legal services. Any questions, concerns about those changes? I think there was one of them had a larger rate increase. Is that right? From reading the deck, want to make sure that everybody's aware of that.
Well, I think the larger increase, you might be referring to the budgeted amount for labor and employment services is higher than it has been year over year, and that's the budgeted amount for the labor services is higher than it has been year over year from a budget perspective, and that's largely driven by the fact that we're in contract negotiations in 2024. And as we mentioned before, we're working through kind of a backlog of some of our other what's the word I'm looking for, arbitrations and things like that. So this is reflective. If you remember last month, we came to the board and asked to exceed or to increase the 2023 contract with Densmore because of the volume. And so therefore the budgeted amount in 2024, I believe, is slightly higher than it was in 2023. The blended rate, I'd have to look at the action item to find the exact information on the blended rate.
Okay. Just wanted to focus people's attention on it, see if there were any questions. If not, go ahead. Please, Rod.
This is just a informational piece of document. Are we going to vote on this?
Going to vote on it and move it to the full board.
Individual action items are what we would, I think, need to click through and vote on.
We can approve them all in one fell swoop if we're okay with that.
Yeah, I'm just trying to make sure I'm clear. On the October 23rd, we approved Dinsmore and Scholl for up to $430,000. Was that for this year? Because I'm just saying that the dollars don't match.
Correct. That was for 23. We were running ahead of plan in 2023 because of the volume associated with the arbitrations and beginning prep for negotiations. And so we came back to the board in October and say, we're going to exceed the budgeted amount and what we had asked for at the beginning of the calendar year. So we had to get authority to end calendar 23. That additional authority is being used now in Q4 of 23.
And that's the $180,000 that we additionally approved.
Correct. And this is the starting from zero
to next year,
the budget for 2024.
Okay.
I just have one question. We sole source our legal services. Is that, do we evaluate that sole source?
We do. And when we this is on an annual basis.
Okay.
As part of our procurement process, the authority that we have to spend under that contract is annual. That has to be approved by the board. Once it's approved by the board, any increase we need to put into our procurement system. When we're looking forward to the next year and we want to stay with the same firm, we do sole source justification and put that into the procurement pipeline. So when procurement gets it, they're seeing the rationale for sole source. From a legal perspective, we have a lot of cases that span the calendar year, that span multiple years, and that's some of the rationale that we build into sole sourcing with our firms. And of course, we ask the people who use the firms if they're happy with their experience, and then we look at the cost information as well to make sure it's in line with market.
I think that's where I'm going.
Yep.
I hope there's an evaluation. Even though we love Kim, we still need to evaluate our services and the cost for those services.
And the rates is and the rates associated with both of these, when you compare them to market rates, are both very reasonable.
I don't mean to have a hang up, but how many other companies were submitted a bid for the signs and poles installs?
John, you want to cover that?
I'm sorry, I didn't quite hear the question.
Weren't there two other bidders for the
That's in
signs and poles?
Who were
Natalie,
they?
if you want to pull up the action
Yeah,
item.
the
for
action
that.
item should indicate how many.
I can't see it yet. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
I think one was
There you go.
significantly lower, and one was significantly higher.
That's correct.
Correct.
So we split a baby. Okay.
Next page. There we go.
So I apologize. I didn't read all this.
Sorry, so you can see that Karnak Concrete at 212 and Cincinnati Custom Signs at 1.4. Oberon came in the middle at 825.
I just so
The
when they looked at, I mean, looking at the, I'm sorry, looking at these numbers, I just wonder. I mean, this is not their primary area of business, and you have. I see the weighted, I see the numbers in the terms of their total score. I'm not sure how I feel about it yet. I'll crunch it. I apologize. I didn't thoroughly go through this.
What we could do is pass this on to the full board, but keep it off the consent agenda, and we could look into it a little bit more and review your questions before the full board.
Yeah,
Would that be a good process?
What I can offer in support is, first, this is a request for proposal process. So evaluation of proposals received by independent internal customers and stakeholders is how we first and foremost select which vendor is going to be awarded that contract. Everybody reviews their proposal. They score them on the evaluation criteria that was outlined in the solicitation. And then the aggregated score is what we use to determine who that selected vendor is supposed to be. If you're looking solely based on price, what you don't see in that pricing table is the vendor's grasp of the project requirements and the vendor resources that they were putting toward that project. Karnak in particular, they don't have an in-house workforce. They actually proposed using a volunteer workforce, which meant very limited guarantee that they could actually fulfill the requirements of the contract at any given time during the life of the contract. That wasn't a sustainable work plan for us. When we look at 5 years, 4,000 bus stops, all of the changes that occur throughout the course of a year, that really wasn't sustainable. On the opposite end, Cincinnati Custom Signs did have an in-house workforce that could do the work, but they were significantly overpriced relative to Oberson's nursery. Now, again, I wouldn't take Oberson's nursery and landscape as a corporate title to be reflective of the sole area of business that they concentrate in. They do have a vertical that covers a lot of things that are outside of, but connected to the landscape industry.
They do. I'm just saying it's not their primary. And I wonder, I mean, for this small business to be so far from the really the going rate and what's required, was there any assistance whatsoever in perhaps briefing or on what this contract would need, what the contract would need?
Well, that's what the solicitation work scope is for, to explain what the requirements of the contract are. If the question is, did we coach any of those firms along in their proposal process, the answer is no. We're prohibited from doing that.
I got a question.
Sure.
So this company, Karnak and Oberson is a nursery. Karnak specializes in concrete. What gave you the impression that they were going to use a temp service?
They told us they were going to use volunteer workers.
Well, they're not volunteer, they labor members, they union members.
They told us they were they programmed out, they mapped out in their project plan that they were going to use a volunteer workforce to handle the workload.
And maybe y'all misunderstood that, but they can't use any volunteer laborers, period.
I can't speak to any of that. I can only speak to what they put in their proposal, and they identified clearly a volunteer workforce.
Because they more than capable of doing the work versus a nursery to install poles when they've never even done the work.
Our ability to assess whether or not they're capable and the reach of their capabilities is constrained only to what they put in the proposal in response to the solicitation.
I absolutely hear you. In clarifying, I understand that. And we're only seeing a very small element of what all you have. And I see how you really took everything else into consideration. Perhaps the other challenges is that we have talked about for some time about what small and disadvantaged businesses are their positions and how we not necessarily have to coach them during this actual process where they're submitting, but pre that process and what that looks like. So I guess I'm wondering, I mean, this is very far off. I'm a business owner, you know what I mean? So if I submit something and, I submit to try to acquire a contract and I'm, over $500,000 off, there's a lot that I have missed when it comes to preparing for that. And I'm not inclined to just think that they're totally incapable or incompetent in order to figure that out. But I'm wondering what we had said that there were some things that we would do with workshops for small and disadvantaged businesses that would be ongoing so that we could say, hey, these are the things that we're looking for. You need to keep this in mind. You can hear some other resources to utilize and something so that at least you have an opportunity to even get up to bat, because that's not even an opportunity. So I'm just wondering, was that at play at all prior to this?
So what we do is we do all of those outreach things. So you hear about the things where we invite the vendors in to ask questions and whatnot. And when we put a solicitation out, all the vendors that we put the solicitation out, they all have the opportunity to ask questions of us prior to the bid closing to help them get to the place they need to get to make sure they understand the project. They all have the opportunity to ask questions prior to, and we're open to any of those questions when they come in. But once that bid closes, legally, there's not a lot we can do other than evaluate based on their proposal. If we start getting into after the proposal,
that's a problem.
Also understand that we are restricted in how much information we can share about specific projects during the project planning phase prior to the solicitation being released. So when we're coaching small businesses on how to improve their odds at winning business here at Metro, it's not specific to a project. It's holistic. So we give them as many pointers. We tell them how to file public records requests for previous awards, to look at previous successful bids. We put them through an RFP response writing workshop, how to craft your proposals. We coach them as best we can in general terms so that they're as prepared as possible to respond to specific projects as they're released. Once the project is in procurement and we're planning that project, our ability to speak to the details of a specific project are closed off. At that point, we can't have conversations outside of the procurement department for fear of creating an unfair competitive advantage for one of the proposers.
And then, John, after this is all said and done, and after a contract is awarded, right, there's the opportunity for the vendor to
come back
request
and
a
say,
debrief
hey, could you,
with our team, and we do those very, very frequently.
And we proactively make that offer to them. It's not us just waiting in response. We tell them when we send out our notifications of who's going to be awarded that if you're interested in understanding why your proposal was unsuccessful, please let us know. We'll be happy to share the information with you.
I don't have any
federal. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, I don't have familiarity with Karnak Concrete or Oberson's Nursery and Landscapes, but just looking at Oberson's website, it seems to me that they do a variety of things. In fact, I don't even see a nursery feature on their website. So I'm wondering if at the board meeting we might get a little bit more information about their experience doing this kind of work, concrete work, and the maintenance of sites, that kind of thing. I think that would be helpful because I think that nursery in their title is a little confusing and maybe a little bit misleading. It does look like they have experience with kind of site management, and maybe a little bit more information about that would be helpful.
And part of proposal responses is detailing just that, ma'am. Them narrating to us their experience in performing the services that we're asking them to perform. So obviously it would have been a red flag for us to see a nursery company propose on a bus stop sign installation contract, but their proposal was very detailed in the type of work that they've done in that same kind of space.
Maybe you can share that at the board meeting?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Further information about Karnak, it is woman-owned.
Yeah, so I'm like, that's why I'm like, that'd been a great, and then part of the ask was, if we're not reaching them or does that mean that there's some things we need to work on? I apologize to I'm not beating a dead horse, but I appreciate the clarity and whatnot, and appreciate it.
I think the line of questioning is very important. Where can
Like
we
$1 million.
help? How do we help? Right? What are the legal limitations on the help that we can provide? And this is probably worth a briefing for the board at some point in a future date, because it is dangerous waters, because you can't do the wrong thing at the wrong time. And so if we could get a little bit of I think it's probably a law school class level.
No,
but we
I can make it that if you'd like. But no, we do have a procurement for board members presentation that we can bring to the board.
Is
And I
there
think
an
that-
after
What I
the
was
fact
going to bring
hybrid
up
that
was
could
that I
happen?
know with a lot of federal grants or proposals that they have set dates. Like if you're going to apply for this proposal on these 2 dates, you can come in and ask questions. So maybe that's something, I don't know if we're not doing, that we could do that would help say for instance, those 3 that are applying for this RFP.
All of our procurement projects have a pre-proposal conference that vendors are invited to come into and ask questions and tour the site if they want a site tour, but they can talk directly with the project managers who are going to be running their contract after award. They can talk directly with the procurement team. Again, where the restriction sets in is how much coaching we can give them in preparing a response to the proposal.
But if it's the same across the board, say it's a open, like a Zoom meeting or something, and you have a set date that these vendors can ask questions, they all get the same information, so it's still.
That's what we do.
Okay.
That's exactly what we do. Where again the line kind of stops is coaching them on how to craft a specific proposal to a specific project. We give the same set of information. We publish all of the questions that vendors ask, both during the live pre-proposal conference, and if they've submitted a question through the e-procurement system, we publish addenda with all of those questions and all of the responses. All of the vendors who are interested in reviewing the solicitation are going to get all of the same pieces of information. Again, where we kind of have to pump the brakes is providing one-on-one guidance for how a proposal
Right,
should
which would be a
look when they send it back to us.
I appreciate that. And then the last thing I'll say is do we ever say, well, hey, if we have this larger company that is very well capable, we've got history, we know that they can execute, but we ask that they bring in a small business as a like a third party or something like that. Do we do that?
So we do it in 2 forms. The first is the proactive portion of the solicitation that identifies our value to diversity, equity, and inclusion in our contracting processes, and being able to tell vendors that your proposal is going to be scored, at least in part. One of the criteria will be that you'll be given points awarded based on your inclusion of disadvantaged businesses for subcontracting opportunities. The second is during contract negotiations, and quite frankly, ongoing during the contract award and administration phase, we're continually in conversation with vendors about welcoming in diverse suppliers into their contract activities. So if there's opportunities for a full subcontract award, or if there's opportunities for them to buy materials from locally disadvantaged businesses, then we're continually encouraging that activity as well.
So if they were doing that, they would say, like, for instance, Cincinnati Custom Signs would say, hey, we're going to use that a minority vendor or supplier to do X, Y, and Z, and then you would give them a points based on how
based on
much
the
of that
percentage.
project that they would be
based on the
given,
percentage.
that'd be 5% of the.
And so if you'll see on the
I
score,
see.
on the
There's
RFP
nothing.
tabulation evaluation, evaluation tabulation, there are 50 points available
Yeah.
for small and disadvantaged business enterprise participation.
Yeah.
Karnak was the only one that got the points. They're a XBE vendor, so they got all of the points available. The other 2 respondents didn't include any participation in their work.
I think that's a little problematic, I guess, for me. I know $1 million contract, but that's all I'll say about that.
And I think if we take a step back and if we look at the matrix so far this year, we've awarded $8.4 million, right, to small minority businesses in our community. And this is the rub, right? What we try to do is create the environment all the coaching beforehand, the pre-proposal meetings, the points evaluation during the proposal, the coaching afterwards, right? With the hope that we build an ecosystem where we get more competitive bids. The fact of the matter is that we can't just choose, once we get into the solicitation process, we have to let the criteria play itself out. And that's where, if we zoom out one step, I think that the process is really working. And with these particular individual procurements, like, this is a good discussion to have, is what worked, what didn't work, what we do to improve the process, so on and so forth. So
So I'm going to just reiterate and clarify my thoughts in some, and then I will turn my mic off. So I fully believe that anyone that is capable of doing the work and has the wherewithal to do it and the manpower, et cetera, should be awarded the project, period, point blank. What I do think is that when we have organizations that are part of an ecosystem that is not homogeneous, such as especially Cincinnati, that we should, it is an expectation that you have some degree of play in the sandbox for others, whether that's folks of all sorts of different types of minority, whether they're ethnic or disabled or what have you. I think that to have zero in there is a tad problematic. I'd like to see at least 1 point that maybe you did something. And so I'm not taking issue with, I'm not trying to say that this should only be awarded strictly because of those 50 points that were allocated that they achieved as a female-owned business. But I do think that, when we look at Cincinnati and how they do their bidding processes and even federal and stuff like that, there is a requirement that X amount of that work or a percentage of that work go toward X, period. That's all it is. It's not, well, we're going to negotiate it out. That is what it is, and that is what you have to put forth in order to win those contracts. I'm not saying that we have to do that. I think we've done a fabulous job of increasing diversity and small business spend. Very, very, very proud of the work. It's been long and hard, and you guys have done an exceptional job. I'm just wanting to go through the weeds a little bit in another conversation to make sure that we maximize our opportunity and our playing field for people in this in our city. I'm a small business owner. When you come to my center and I have kids from my summer camp, that literally means, okay, I can send my daughter to this or whatever she's doing. It's something about having a small business when you're able to really help and fund those. And as a female small business or whatever, the rising of the tides can happen in these situations when we're talking about this much money. And so it does make sense to just at least peer into this a little bit and see how we may best be able to make a more fertile landscape for that. That's all. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. These are incredibly important conversations.
Totally agree.
We do have to approve items onto the board for consideration next week. So I'm gonna say let's for the consent agenda, if this is okay with everybody, you can object that we put the lease agreement for the. Sorry, let me make sure I have this right. Because there's 2 lease agreements for the sales office, and then for the retail electric supply and the legal services, both of them on the consent agenda. I would need a second. All right, properly moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say left. Any abstentions? All right, so those will go on the consent agenda along with the other lease. My apologies for continuing to confuse those. And then what do we want to do with the bus stop sign and pole installation? Is there a motion to move that forward?
I'm fine to move it forward.
Okay, just want to make sure. But we'll keep that separate, and we'll get some Do we have any follow-up items before the board next week?
Well, so I'll second the motion, and then if we could be prepared for discussion, that'd be helpful to the extent that this discussion really helped today.
Okay.
It'll help the full board when we all get together.
Properly moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say left. Any abstentions? All right. That is through our action items. And do we have anything after that, or is it just new business? Any new business?
Just in our last meeting, we had a chance to tour or to check out the hybrid bus. And notice, where the driver sits, there's like a thick piece of like plexiglass or something
Shield.
like that, shield right there. And I was just thinking, with all the angry people that come on buses and frustrated and don't really care, is that to protect him? What is that shield for? Because I'm kind of thinking you can't completely shield him or her in, the driver in, whatever in the air. But what other kind of protection do we have for the drivers?
So I think a lot of the shields, and then John, you can take it away. It
Sure.
started with COVID.
Exactly.
right?
A fantastic question. And even here, we explored it prior to the pandemic. We got some prototypes that look not quite as big as what we fabricated in response to the pandemic. And we surveyed our operators in response to some safety concerns. Did you like this? Very much a mixed bag of reviews from operators. Yes, there's a safety element, a little bit of a disconnect from customers, concerns about glare and so on, right? And that feeling of being in a cab. So certainly not enough popularity to move forward with it. COVID flipped that on its head, where this is almost becoming, when we installed it, it was for that kind of protective barrier, right? Not so much for physical safety, right, and confrontations and such, but in response to the pandemic. And the industry has moved almost towards where you'll see this to be standard issue. There's a lot of innovation in how do you safely reach that out. A lot of discussion of how far do bus operators prefer that kind of material to go forward, and what materials do you need to not create glare issues, night driving and such. So there's been a ton of innovation in this space just in the last few years. In our capital plan, we're going to explore retrofitting the entire fleet. About 1/3 of our fleet has factory installed barriers. The rest of them have the ones that we fabricated during the pandemic. But it's become so popular, whether it's pandemic related or safety concerns, we're looking to make this more standard issue. But we'll go out to market to take a pulse of the industry of what is out there in terms of innovation, safety, driver comfort, even options to stow the barrier, roll the window down if you don't prefer it, these kind of things. So yeah, we surveyed operators pre-pandemic, didn't really love it. COVID completely changed that dynamic, and now we're looking to retrofit the entire fleet with the latest and greatest.
Along with that, driver safety has become an increasingly, it was important before, but more and more important topic in the industry along with COVID. And we did have an operator who was injured pretty bad by a passenger who kind of collapsed the barrier down, is my understanding of it. And so that's why some of these larger barriers that go up are the industry trying to figure out how to do it right. Rapid changes at the APTA conference. This is what, there's a lot on zero emission vehicles and all that stuff, but on the bus manufacturers, they're looking at that, trying to have the best thing. Also quick egress, right? You don't want to have something that you feel really locked in for safety reasons and that kind of thing. So,
yep.
A lot going on there, yeah.
Thanks a lot.
How's the driver doing? Have you heard anything? Not still that bad. Oh, yep.
So obviously a very important topic. Any other new business? All right, I see people putting on coats, so I will see you next week. We have an evening board meeting Look forward to seeing you there.